It's been a thing for as long as I can remember in our town, but it's never had any news coverage, and nobody's ever really talked about it. Every month or so, a boat, anywhere from a rowboat to a yacht, though we've had some as large as luxury vessels, washes up on the shore of Layman's Beach. Always a body or two in them, or more depending on the size of the boat. The police? They're not interested in them anymore. Maybe they were at one point, decades ago. Now they just do a quick body count, then they push it back out to sea and write a note of the day and time. They always go back out to sea. It drove me mad to think that they're out there. There might have been an island of boats by now, full of rotten and decaying people, seagulls picking at the remains. The corpses? They're fresh, like they were just killed instantly, because they don't have any injuries apart from, as the old newspaper clippings go, total liquefaction of the brain. It runs out of their nose, ears and eye sockets, and forms a pool at the bottom of the ship from the union of slurred brains. There's usually at least a small crowd that appears around the boats when they beach, but that dwindles every month. Of course, the news has never broken to any other town, so there's never any tourists except for the passing biker. Mum used to say that they were a warning from God, and my dad always thought that it was some kind of conspiracy, though what exactly for he never told me. A few days ago, another one washed up, a rowboat. I said that they beach about once every month, but this one was just 5 days after the last. Same month, with 2 people in it. I told a couple of my friends about it, and together we decided to bring them ashore to examine them. None of us thought ourselves squeamish, having lived on farms for most of our lives. I was a butcher's son, and the other 2 were brothers who ran a home kill business with their dad. These were really the only 2 of my friends who I thought would be able to handle it, even if they weren't my best friends, really. We threw tarp over it and started hauling it in. Early morning for this one, so no crowd. We brought it over to the boat shed, ignoring the god-awful stench of liquefied brain matter coming from it. Once behind the sheds, we took the tarp off and wrapped a sweater around our mouths and nose to examine the corpses. 2 of them, a man and a woman. The man wore cargo shorts with no shirt, and the woman was wearing a swimsuit. Thick, dried grey and red liquid oozed down from their noses, ears and eye sockets, staining their clothes and collecting in a puddle of gunk at the bottom of the boat. In revulsion of the sudden stink that pierced even through our sweaters, we put the tarp back over and went outside to catch our breath. Jack, one of my friends, couldn't contain his breakfast and hauled on the concrete. We thought for a bit about what could have caused the people's brains to just melt, and we were close to pushing that boat back in the water before we noticed a squad of police show up at the beach, standing at the water's edge. They hadn't seen us by the boat shed, but just in case someone had tipped them off, we ducked inside. One cop was checking his watch, writing notes. Our thoughts jumped to the conclusion that they may have been expecting it. Before long, they started to fan out. We guessed that they were either looking for either us or the boat. Of course, we ran off, leaving the boat behind, but I took another peek under the tarp. I'm not sure why I did it. To confirm that this was all real? To make sure I hadn't missed anything? I don't know. I just felt compelled to. There was something wriggling in the man's eye socket. Long and yellow. Too long for a maggot. But that was about as much as I could handle of the smell before I flapped the tarp back down and ran out. We hid in the bushes, watching the shed to see if they went in and found the boat. 2 of them waited outside while the other 2 went in and brought the boat back out, dragging it along the ground. They pulled the tarp off, and in a spectacle like I've never seen, all immediately started vomiting. I don't know what they had seen which I hadn't, but not long after, They called for backup and began hauling it to the ocean. More police arrived, and the first pointed to the shed, possibly describing us running there. That was it. We decided now that we needed to go before we were brought in for questioning. As far as we knew, nobody had ever done what we did. The police were almost always first on the scene, but this time we had beaten them to the punch. We stayed in the bushes until none of them were looking in our direction, and bolted. Each of us vowed never to mention it to anyone. I described the worm in the eye socket, though the others just thought it was a maggot. I'm sure it's not. I see it flash in my mind sometimes, replaying that frame. Long, yellow, two thin, needly antennae that move like a cockroach's. The boats, they kept coming. Day after day after day, landing on the beach, being pushed back out, and no, they were never the same boats, always fresh bodies in them. The tipping point of all this? Yesterday, the bodies were ID'd for the first time I've ever known. A local couple, apparently they went out fishing that morning, and came back just like the rest before them. Of course it was all locked down. Nobody is allowed onto the beach anymore. The police have cordoned it off. But that hasn't stopped some morbidly determined people. At least 5 other people have somehow gotten past the cordon and sailed into the sea, and the police are having to taser people who get too close now. I don't know what's causing this strange compulsion, but it seems to be affecting more and more people. They want to go into the water. My parents are driving down there in a few minutes, a canoe on the roof rack. I've tried to stop them, but somewhere in my mind, I feel it too. I want to go to the water, and the feeling is building to a frenzy in this town. I need to leave, but I can't. I'm going to lock my door and hold myself up until people stop going in the water. Even though it sounds cool and inviting, I can't. It's mob mentality, surely. Yet, when I sleep, I think I can hear it. There's something in my mind driving this compulsion. I hear the beat of its heart, out of time with mine.